Hello, I'm Mark Reed. I'm going to read an essay called The Efficacy of the TAS. I was asked to gather some material about autonomous zones and their potentiality. And so this is the first essay, and then there's a bunch of collected material that I hope you enjoy. Architects and conceptual artists Shusaku Arakawa and Madeline Gins make the claim that through an architectural style they call reversible destiny, one can literally overcome death. The essence of their argument is this. Death is not inevitable. It's a construct. It's constantly reinforced through habit, a habit of movement, a habit of language, a habit of mind. Therefore, death can be overcome through a rigorous process of dehabituation. Their strategy for achieving this is architectural. Their site of intervention, the home, the domicile. They make very, very strange and unexpected and uncomfortable homes. They claim that these homes can unleash latent abilities and powers within all of us that will enable the inhabitant to overcome death, to live forever. They've sold a lot of these homes to eager clients. In fact, they sold one in 2008 in the Southamptons for $5.5 million. Temporary autonomous zones are the social equivalent of reversible destiny homes. I like to think of them as the kitchen, which is the room in the house where all truly revolutionary moments occur. In the case of the TAS, rather than individual attempts to overcome death, we see collective efforts to overcome the current social, political, and economic order, or the hegemon, for lack of a better word. Though the term TAS, which is coined by Peter Lamborn Wilson, is relatively new, the phenomenon is actually very old, perhaps ancient. You can see it in the medieval European carnival that Mikhail Bakhtin writes about, or in the diggers and the levelers of 17th century England, or in the Dadaist salons of the 1920s, or Paris in 1968, or London in 1996, or Chiapas in 1994. You can see it in subway train parties and critical mass bike rides and junk raft armadas in Black Rock City and, of course, in Zuccotti Park. The threads that tie all these events and insurrections and activities together, seems to me, are illicitness, reorientation, and play. Permission is neither sought nor given for the TAS. Space or time is reclaimed. Power is either ignored entirely, eluded, or confronted. I say this not merely to fetishize outlawism. This is an essential characteristic. For while the TAS can coexist with the hegemon, ultimately the TAS seeks the hegemon's unraveling, its dissolution, and therefore it's unwelcomed by the dominating forces of society. If you have eluded power, if you have carved out a space beyond its reach or momentarily outside its field of vision, congratulations are in order. But if you have been granted permission for your TAS, chances are that there is no truly transformative potential there, and so you should go elsewhere, find something else to do. Burning Man is an excellent example of how something might lose its TASness. While it can feel very liberating to be there, and certainly there's a greater sense of freedom there than in most people's daily lives, the freedom is constrained by power, by the state. It's not true autonomy. It's really the containment or even the co-optation of the desire for true freedom. I'm not saying that Burning Man is utterly useless. I'm just saying that because it does afford some space for truly imaginative and radical thinking and some experimentation, but its transformative potential has been largely erased by market forces and collusion with the state. But TASs, these acts, true TASs, these autonomous moments and spaces, they're oppositional in nature. It may not be in an obvious or explicit way, but they all posit an alternative to what currently is. They destabilize and disorient, or redistribute the sensible, as Jacques Rancière wrote. Better yet, they kind of reorient us. Arakawa and Ginn speak of perceptual landing sites in their architectural theories. They say that a home, a space, is organized in a way where our expectations, our perceptual expectations, are met in a very orderly and predictable way. There's the sink, there's the dish rack next to the sink, there's the counter, there's the stove next to the counter, etc. It's very predictable. Our perception sort of just goes from one of these predictable landing sites to another one. When you begin to disrupt those perceptual landing sites, they say. You reorient the mind, or in a continual state of disorientation, you reorient being, is essentially their argument. This extends to the spatial and social organization of cities and societies. There's the bridge, there's the car, there's the park with the people on the bench, there's the subway with the people on the seats, there's the people working on private land for private profit. When we disrupt that in some way, we can begin to reorient collective perception of the political landscape and open up imagination to make way for new political possibilities. Lastly, by play, I don't necessarily mean playful or even fun, although fun is frequently characteristic of play. Play can, after all, be quite serious, like a game of chess or a wrestling match. The Dutch historian Johan Huizinga, can't really pronounce that name, writes about the magical circle of play, the magic circle of play, in which ordinary life is temporarily suspended and new rules, new orders can be formed and destroyed, willy-nilly, experimented with. He asserted that culture itself is play, so that by that logic, society is play, or political order is play, hegemony itself is play. It's just one particularly persistent set of rules. As activists, most of the time what we're trying to do is change the rules. But what we might really need to do is change the game, or create a whole new game. What the Taz allows us to do is to momentarily step inside that magic circle of play and begin to create new forms. We begin to experiment, imagine, make new connections, begin to have fresh insights into how we interrelate, how we can grow antagonistic or sympathetic to one another, how we can be in solidarity with each other, etc. We often hear this phrase, another world is possible. Like the jewel in the lining of the coat pocket that the Buddha writes about, or the mustard seed that Jesus of Nazareth spoke about, this world exists just out of reach, just out of sight, always possible, always there, if only we can open our minds and hearts to it. Rarely do we allow ourselves to truly enter into a space where that other world is possible. What a Taz can do, if it is blessed by good intention and passionate will, is to allow us a glimpse of this liminal possibility and begin to understand our latent social potential. We must apply the theory of reversible destiny to our social and political contexts. After all, the destiny that many of us foresee is the destiny of fiasco, of catastrophe. We must therefore carve out spaces, engineer interventions, and foment insurrections that disrupt our habit of thought and upend our assumptions about what is possible. We must enter into circles of imagination with each other, create new games, new societies. We must begin all of this collectively, and with the same assertion that Arakawa and Ginz begin with. We have decided not to die.